Body camera video shows a former police officer's inappropriate conversation with a woman he met while on patrol.
Earlier this year, we learned of a sex scandal within the Laverne Police Department.
The police department has decided to fire 2 police sergeants. The first terminations connected to an embarrassing sex scandal.
A Maryland police officer is caught kissing on the job and sliding in the back of his marked squad car.
Welcome to Crazy News Reacts. It is Wonderful Wednesdays. Today I have a sad story. We often hear about women who are taken advantage of by people, raped, not consenting to sex. But when we think about this, do we ever really think about police officers doing this while under the color of their law and their department? Today, I'm about to show you 3 cases where sex scandals, rape, and inappropriate behavior has rocked police stations across the country. Let's go.
Prince George's County Police Department announced the video was under investigation after it began circulating on social media that morning. A statement from the PD reads in part, quote, "As soon as we became aware earlier today, we opened an investigation to determine the circumstances." The video begins showing a uniformed officer standing outside of a squad car hugging a woman. After that, she pulls him in for a kiss and they...
Okay, so first of all, let's go at this from the victim's perspective. We're dealing with police officers in full uniform with their duty belt and their gun and their badge, that overwhelming presence of authority. Now, when you mix that with a sexual predator who happens to have a badge, society is not at all safe. Police officers are never allowed to be involved with sex or any type of scandals, especially when they're on duty, folks, especially. So let's check this out.
Lisa Womack held that press conference just a matter of a few hours ago in which she announced that 2 sergeants would be terminated as a result of that sex scandal. A 3rd sergeant has resigned in lieu of termination after it was determined that she lied in court.
Now, don't be surprised that cops lie in court. They lie all the time. They're normal people. They just have a badge. So, of course, they are going to want the best story to come out, the one which makes them look the most innocent. And the best way to go about that is when they are attacking and inappropriately touching women who are in the minority, low-income women, prostitutes, women who live in motels, do drugs. This is the type of targeting police use when they want to have sex with someone. Just so happens these guys got... Let's continue with Lakeland.
The first casualties of recent Lakeland police scandals were announced this afternoon by Chief Lisa Womack.
This sends the message that this will not be tolerated. There's an expectation of professionalism with the Lakeland Police Department.
The chief announced that Sergeants Rusty Longaberger and David Wolverton have both been terminated, and that Felicia Wilson resigned to avoid her termination in an unrelated incident. Longaberger and Wolverton both refused to take polygraph tests in connection with the department's recent sex scandal.
Okay, number 1, police are required to take lie detector tests. It's not that they are inadmissible in a court of law. That really has nothing to do with it. Police and other law enforcement agencies use the lie detector test just as a tool to either back up what an officer is saying or to let investigators know that there is deception. And this is what happened in this case. 2 sergeants accused of sexual impropriety, and they refuse to participate in anything that would prove their innocence. Let's see what happens.
Sue Eberly, who claimed to have sex with 20 officers and city employees, claims both men had sex with her against her will.
It was without your consent.
Just openly that.
In a taped interview obtained by the I-Team, Eberly claimed Longaberger raped her at a hotel room.
He was going pretty rough, and during the time of sex, he actually forced sex on me.
Problem with this case is you have a Lakeland female officer who admittedly has had sex with more than 20 officers and other emergency response personnel. So her story of being raped by two of them was called into question big time.
And I pulled away because, he knew it hurt me.
Eberly said Wolverton forced himself on her while she was working in her LPD office.
I went into the bathroom and I cried. I wanted to report him at that moment, but I was scared that the department wouldn't believe me, that they would say it was my fault somehow.
And just like she predicted, that's exactly what happened. Officers blamed her and brought up her sexual conduct within the department. But that doesn't necessarily mean she wasn't raped. Let's go on.
The other sergeant who stepped down was Felicia Wilson. Wilson was the focus of an internal affairs investigation at the request of the state attorney's office, which called into question her investigation of a case and her testimony in court. The I-Team reported last week that Sergeant Wilson was nearly fired 5 years ago after it was determined that she used her husband, Lieutenant Al Wilson's computer password to give herself overtime assignments she wasn't entitled to receive.
Here's the problem. We have a big question as to the believability of the Lakeland Police Department supervisors right on up to the chief.
Also, Oklahoma police officer D'Angelo Rise was on patrol when he met a woman walking her dog.
Oh, okay.
I heard some noise that direction, but I didn't.
Okay. Oh, do you live around here?
Yeah, I stay at the motel.
Oh, which one? Oh, okay.
I was working with the Tulsa Police Department Homicide Bureau for a couple years on a story we did about the Good Friday killers that occurred in Oklahoma and in Tulsa. So I have a pretty good understanding of this department. It's very respected. They have the highest conviction rate in the country. And this was a big stain on Tulsa.
Rise can be heard asking the woman where he could find her later that night.
You just chilling tonight? Okay. If I'm wandering around, where should I wander?
Probably somewhere around Studio Star.
At the Studio Star. Okay.
As the conversation continues, Rise asks the woman if she has a room at the motel.
If I'm wandering around later, where should I wander? In other words, I want to meet up with you later and have sex. I want to hook up. Where can I find you? That's what he said in cop speak. And imagine a man in uniform speaking to someone who obviously has a troubled life, lives in a motel, she has a drug problem, she has a criminal record, and you have a cop wanting to have sex with her. That's a scary thing, folks. It really is.
You got a room? Okay.
That's where the body camera video switches off. Investigators say the victim gave Rise her phone number and he called her later that night.
Again, I've said this in many videos. Police officers are not allowed to turn off their body camera when in contact with the public. Doing so certainly gives us the air of impropriety, wrongdoing, trying to cover up his action. And that is what made the Tulsa Police Department believe this officer had done what was claimed.
She says he asked whether she was a prostitute before running her information through the Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department system. Noticing she had a long criminal record, officials say Rise told her, quote, "It wouldn't take much to put a person with her record back in prison."
It wouldn't take much to put a person like her with her record back in prison. He is implying that if she does not comply with what he wants, he could certainly send her back to prison just based on his word and her criminal history. This is corruption at its worst. Trying to manipulate a private citizen to do what you want as a police officer based on that person's criminal history, and you telling her that it wouldn't take much to put her back in, major problem, folks. Major problem.
She told investigators she was afraid Rise would plant evidence and later arrest her. She then says Rise allegedly raped her using a condom. After that, she says he flushed the condom down the toilet.
We have to believe a victim like this who comes forward, okay, and provides all the proof that you need. We have to take them at their word, right? So an investigation was started, and lo and behold,
you're sexy. Is that unprofessional of me? I don't know. I'm sorry, but just like, damn.
When approached by the Special Victims Unit, Rise said he believed the victim to be a homicide suspect. At first, he denied having sex with her, but later admitted they had sex, saying he believed it was consensual.
You're sexy? Damn, is that inappropriate of me? Let me think about that. I'm a cop. I'm on patrol. I got my duty belt on. I got my uniform. I got the cherries and blues lights. Everything about this guy says authority, danger. He's up to something.
Rise resigned after 5 years with the Tulsa Police Department. He was arrested the following day and charged with first-degree rape.
Now, look, folks, my dear subscribers, police departments don't go after their own unless they have a solid case. This guy resigned because he knew what he was doing, and he knew he had done it to other people. This isn't a first time. Jeez, and they give us that air of authority whenever we're stopped or come into contact with them. And they're just a bunch of perverts along with the rest of society. Not all of them, but some, just like society.
Rise pleaded not guilty to those charges in June of 2022. According to a statement released by his attorney, he admits his conduct was inappropriate, but maintains his innocence.
Really don't know how he can claim innocence? Everything is right there on camera. It's just, he is caught in public, right? God, it is very, very scary, folks. I got to tell you, it's when you are a person of little means, a police officer can put you away for years based on his word. And if you have cops like this on the street, you can bet they're committing crimes.
But in Oklahoma City, the police department is getting slammed with a man-made disaster.
Oklahoma City Police confirmed they are investigating this claim.
The force rocked by allegations against one of its own. Officer Daniel Holtzclaw is preying on those he's sworn to serve and protect.
This story is a couple years old, but I want to go over it because this is one of the worst rape cases that ever faced a police officer and his department. William Holtzclaw is the worst serial rapist in police history.
Alleged victim, Oklahoma City native Janie Liggins. She runs a daycare center, is 57 years old, a mother of 4, and a grandmother of 12.
I looked in my rearview mirror and I noticed the lights and I know it was a police car.
She recalls the night she was pulled over along a section of 50th Street. The officer told her she was driving erratically.
When I opened the door, he came to my car. He said, I stopped you because I saw you was swerving.
He starts to question her about a cup of Kool-Aid seen in this police photo and whether she's been drinking. She says she had not. But when the cops start searching her, Liggins says the traffic stop gets weird and scary. She says he orders her to expose herself.
I'm like, what? You want me to take my pants down? And he was like, yes. I said, oh, no, sir. I said, you're not supposed to do that, sir.
Liggins says Holtzclaw then forced her to commit a sex act on him.
Stories like this fall through the cracks a lot because police cannot investigate themselves, at least most departments. Here, we have Oklahoma City Police doing the right thing, investigating one of their own because it wasn't just this one, but dozens of vulnerable women raped by this Oklahoma City police officer.
In his police interview, Holtzclaw acknowledges Liggins was afraid of him.
Did she ever ask you if you were going to shoot her?
She did. She was talking about a pistol all the time. It's talking about guns and whatnot. Like, calm down. I'm not gonna shoot you or anything.
Did she think you were going to shoot her?
Maybe.
It's disgusting. And this is my mother, who is a grandmother.
Liggins' daughter, Latoya Rifa, sat by her mother's side during our interview.
And he assumed that he could do this because there's no way she's going to report him. There's no way nobody's going to believe her. And did he say anything? He just backed up and he zipped his pants up. And he moved back and I just got out his police car and walked towards my car thinking he was going to shoot me in the back. And he let me live to tell the story.
He let her live to tell that story, folks, because, again, just like the reporter and the victims have said, nobody would believe them. They are minority women, which should have nothing to do with it, but it does. They are poor. They have no means. They live in motels because they just don't have money to live in an apartment. They are vulnerable. They have criminal records of drug abuse and things like that the cops fed off. Absolutely incredible. Let's continue with this idiot of the century.
There was no motive for her to make this up.
Detectives scour Holtzclaw's car for evidence, but find nothing more than fast food wrappers, muscle supplements, and a Justin Timberlake CD. But when they examine Holtzclaw's uniform, hoping to find Janie Liggins' DNA, they get a shock. They find DNA all right, but it's not hers, and it's not from Holtzclaw's girlfriend either.
There was unknown DNA, female DNA on the inside of his pants.
Detectives now deduce two things. The unknown DNA may be another victim.
Tough guy, Oklahoma City police officer is a Justin Bieber fan. Oh, that's funny how they had to mention that. But look, they found semen inside his uniform pants of other women that they had to track down because they just didn't know who these victims were. Whew, boy, folks, some of this stuff just gets me going, yeah?
She says the officer forced himself on her, but her ordeal would not end there. Afterwards, she says he drove her to this abandoned schoolyard.
He drove me to a school, the side of the school, in the back. And he opened the door, he told me to get out and pull my pants down.
And allegedly assaulted her again.
And it was over. He said I was free to go.
And now police are connecting all those cases, the women, African American, and mostly middle-aged, to that young, all-American, clean-cut cop, Daniel Holtzclaw.
Clean-cut cop in a pig uniform, because that's what he is. He's a pig. And stalking minority women because he knows, unfortunately, they won't be believed by anyone at the department. But he didn't think that he had raped so many women that the cases were about to pile up.
An officer allegedly leading a double life on the night shift. 2 months after his interrogation, he is arrested in the parking lot outside his gym.
Police officer arrested. Officer Daniel Holtzclaw is in custody tonight, with several women coming forward claiming to be his victims.
They have Holtzclaw. They also have a growing list of accusers. But there's a problem. Not one of the women is a match to that critical clue, the mystery female DNA found on the uniform.
We kept going and kept searching because we had to find a match.
When we come back, something else that's not adding up. Is it possible police are chasing the wrong man?
Your description doesn't match Daniel Holtzclaw.
Look, let's not get caught up on the description here because it is very common that eyewitnesses to crimes aren't the best witnesses because there's a stress factor involved, right? When you come into contact with police, you are stressed out because you just don't know what could happen to your life.
Former Oklahoma City cop Daniel Holtzclaw has been sentenced to 263 years in prison for raping and sexually victimizing more than a dozen women while on patrol in a low-income neighborhood. According to state court records, Holtzclaw's attorney filed a motion for a new trial just a day before he was to be sentenced. The judge denied the motion in Thursday's hearing. The 29-year-old was convicted last month on 18 counts, including 4 counts of first-degree rape.
Count 8. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy and punishment is set at 20 years.
During Holtzclaw's trial, 13 women testified that the former cop had coerced them into having sex after threatening to arrest them for possessing drug paraphernalia or on outstanding warrants.
18 cases, 12 to 13 women. Get away from that. You just can't. When a jury is seated and they listen to the entire story, the one given by the prosecutor and the one given by the defense attorney, it's always the best story that wins. Doesn't really necessarily mean anything whether he's guilty or innocent. Because if that lawyer of his could have told the best story of the courtroom, he probably would have got found not guilty. But the story was with all of the victims because it was undisputable. And this man was sentenced to 263 years in prison, where he will become a target for the criminals serving decades behind the wall. Thank you for joining me today, RJ Smith, and this was Crazy News Reacts. Like, subscribe, and share, guys, on your social media. We're building a community here. I am so happy you're here. Have a good day, And I will see you back here tomorrow, Thursday. Good night.